Hey, welcome back to the Personal Transformation Podcast. My name is Dan Storey, author of the book Personal Transformation Blueprint. And on this episode of the podcast, we've got a special guest, Pete Storey. Pete, do you want to introduce yourself real quick? Who are you? Why are you here?
Okay, so I'll introduce myself. We've got the same name because I am actually your brother, also your coach, and I own a company called Elevate Online Coaching. It's not just a small transformation company, and we'll get into that. It is all about the total picture of starting from here, ending in here, and having a life transformation rather than just a short-term transformation.
So Pete talks about transformation, right? And this is an argument that we have, right? And it's a friendly brotherly argument. We won't hit each other because we are on video cameras, distant from each other. But we have disagreements, and Pete's gone online actively posting and talking nonsense or talking rubbish about transformation challenges, right? But you run transformation challenges, so I'm trying to figure this out. Obviously, having written a book about 90-day transformations and the power that they can contain, me and you having slightly different opinions on transformation challenges is going to be interesting for this, and hopefully it doesn't kill anybody in the process. But help me understand, what's your big problem with transformation challenges? Why do you want to talk rubbish about them all the time?
So a transformation challenge, let's just see where we start and where we end. Okay, so we start with somebody who is in quite a bad position, and we're trying to put them into a position where for one single day, they look great. And that's it. That's my problem with a transformation challenge. They only aim at one day at the end of their 90 days, and that's it.
So it's all just aiming at that big, like, one photo. Hey, you did it. You can go back to your everyday life now. And so is it the short-termness? Is it the superficialness? What is it?
Let's take it back to where the person started. So the person started probably in a poor self-esteem.
Yeah.
So they've got poor self-esteem, and what this transformation coach is doing is they're saying to them, okay, well, what I can do is I can make you look great in 90 days. What we're going to do is we're going to make you diet. So you're not going to enjoy your food because I'm going to restrict your food. We're going to make you go to the gym, and we're going to make you think that you have to go to the gym to lose weight or to look better. And we're going to make you do lots of stuff outside of what you're doing normally. We're going to change that within 90 days. And then I'm going to say, right, you're good to go. See you later.
And that's it. And then you just go back. And this is, we know people, you coach a lot of people as well. It's that idea that we just go back to doing the same thing afterwards, right? You just go back to normal, and we talk about fitness a lot, obviously, but normal dieting or this. But normal was what got them into that place of low self-esteem, low confidence, terrible conditioning, all of those things. That was what normal did. Are you saying that, a lot of the transformations out there don't rewire or don't reprogram? Like, what is that the challenge? Is that you just kind of let them go and then they have to go through a challenge again just to feel good about themselves?
It's exactly what I'm saying. So if you think about, somebody that's got poor self-esteem because possibly they're a couple of stone overweight, they got there because of their poor eating habits. They didn't get there because they didn't go to the gym. They didn't get there because they weren't working. They got there because of their poor eating habits.
Yeah.
So if we're taking their poor eating habits and saying you're eating far too many calories, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you on quite a restrictive diet.
Yeah.
That's going to create a very strange relationship with food. They're going to go, okay, the food that I liked made me fat. This food, which is very restrictive, made me thin. So it must be this that is sustainable for life. And the problem being, if you're constantly in a deficit, you're constantly tired, you're constantly on the way down, your mood is going down.
Yeah.
And that's not sustainable in the long term. The problem with a 90-day challenge is it doesn't encourage people to play about with food. It doesn't encourage people to have that relationship with food where they can go, do you know what? Tonight, I'm not going to have chicken, rice, and broccoli. Tonight, I'm going to have steak, a bit of cheese, and some vegetables, because that's the same calorie content.
Yep.
It's possibly the same protein content, but the macros don't look the same. And that's what 90-day challenges don't do. They're so restrictive that they don't allow people to, like you said, rewire their knowledge of nutrition. They don't allow them to have this open mind that they can do whatever they want as long as they're within their calories.
Yep. But you do challenges, right? You do set people goals and you set people challenges and stuff. So what do you think is the difference? Let's see if we're aligned on this. Because I agree with you. I don't think the short-term superficial aspect of, hey, look good for a photo shoot, we'll contour the abs on a little bit as well just to make it look a little bit better. I think that's a really bad way of doing things, because also it ties success to the wrong metric, right? It ties success to looking good. And, you know, for what a lot of people, I think, when they're going through challenges, not just fitness challenges, but any kind of transformation challenge, is they're looking to improve their life overall. They're trying to escape something. And, you know, in the book, I call it trap of average. I talk about this general dissatisfaction or specific dissatisfaction with life. But like you say, they don't want to drift back there. They want to cross a bridge and then almost burn that bridge. So that old identity is gone. We're going to create this new identity, and we're going to do things to reinforce that. So what's some of the correct ways? What are some of the ways that people should think about challenges like that kind of create momentum, but also lead to lasting change and not just dropping back off at the end?
So the way that I structure my coaching very differently to like a 90-day transformation, as you call it, a beach transformation or a photo shoot transformation, is essentially I'm trying to educate people into the way that you can act whilst you're in your transformation phase. So I'm not going to aim for, I want you to be shredded in 90 days. I'm going to aim for, I want you to be confident enough to take yourself and go with it within 90 days, 6 months, whatever it may be. Because if your self-esteem is low and all you're doing is dieting and training really hard to get to a point where you feel better about yourself, looking in the mirror, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've worked on your self-esteem. It doesn't necessarily mean that you've worked on your relationship with food. It just means that you've pushed yourself physically to a point where, oh my God, I feel terrible.
Yep. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Is behavior is important. And, you know, I love to hear you saying that I'm not going to push people to get ripped. So we'll talk about that in our next coaching catch up, because I need to step it up a little bit. But it doesn't. You're right. When we look at behavior change, there's probably 3 elements that go into successful behavior change. There's attitude, like the way we think about something, and I think, you know, we'll come into discipline in a minute or a later date. You've got to do the things you need to do, but you've got to feel the right way about it. You can't see it as a punishment. You can't see it as a chore. You know, you're talking about diet there. You can't see it as restrictive or eliminating, because then you just fight against that. So I think the attitudes needs to change. I think the education piece you talked about there was really good. We need to then surround ourselves with people who have a similar mindset. So social network or social peers is important, right? You've got to be surrounded by people who not just reinforce it, but also set that expectation. And then the other one is then self-belief. Like if you look at those 3 elements, self-esteem is that belief that you can maintain it and you can do that. So I think, you know, the coaching side and really working on the mindset is super important, because if you just do the thing and you don't rewire the brain, of course, people are just going to go straight back to doing what they did previously, and, you know, maybe had a little bit of success here, maybe got a nice photo, but you're not going to create that lasting change. So what you talked about self-esteem. Are people that, you know, when you're working with someone, what do you find is the driver for them wanting to do these transformation changes? What are they coming to you with, and what are they really trying to escape? Because it's not really I want that picture. They're trying to escape something.
Essentially, when we first get on a call, a lot of people come on and they will talk about their weight. They'll talk about that as a metric. They'll say, I want to lose 2 stone. And the first thing I'll say to them is, why do you want to lose 2 stone? Oh, because I think it will make me feel better. And I say, well, what about those 2 stone do you not like? Is it that you don't like looking in the mirror? Is it you don't like walking around and feeling that on your body? Is it that you want to run? Do you want to go to the gym? Do you not have the confidence to take your clothes off in front of your partner? Things like this are not things that a 90-day transformation are going to address. That a 90-day transformation is saying, right, I'm going to make you this super sexy beach body that can go onto Baywatch. But within 20 days, after you've gone to the beach and you've gone on holiday and you've put on those ridiculous amount of pounds from water retention because you didn't know how to eat on holiday, you know, all you did was gorge because you've been on such a super restrictive diet for 90 days, whatever. Yeah. You come back and you're probably in exactly the same place you were before. And what that does then is it gets people into this perpetual cycle of, well, I did it in 90 days before. If I do it in 90 days again, then I can binge again and just go straight back to the 90 days and carry on doing this. Yeah. Well, there's people that in professional sport do that. Ricky Hatton was one of them. And his career fell off because he lost his mind.
You see a lot of professional sports people, and side note, random, I sang happy birthday to Ricky Hatton at his 40th birthday. We'll talk about that another time. Hi, Ricky, if you're listening. He's not. But you see a lot, and boxers especially, right? There's, I think Nassim Hamed was another one as well. They get to the end of their career, and because they don't have that upcoming fight, like the weight just piles on, and they just completely change. And but you look at them, see someone like Tyson Fury, who does have that off season, but then can get completely into shape. But that is, and I do that. You do that as a competitor. We have our bulking stage and we have our cutting stage, but it is exhausting. Like to cut and to do that, like long term, that's really difficult. And I think I did 14 months for the first show. Just wasn't that bad shape, but that's how long it took to come around. That's exhausting. And I think the mental side of that, of just the up and the down, just is too much. And so I think having a sustainable thing, you're right, is something that you need to be able to do, because long-term change, like, the changes you're talking about, feeling confident, yeah, you can take a step towards it in 90 days, but you can't get all the way. I don't think you can get all the way, depending on starting points, for example. So this, and again, in the book, this is one of the things I talk about, and it's, I think, this and kind of we haven't really spoken so much about the book, but the transformation challenge is, the first step is to create that long-term vision. And without that long-term vision, like there's no point doing transformation, because it would literally be that yo-yo aspect. But I think the 90 days is a good first step on the route to something bigger. So when let's say you periodize a client, then what's the big goal that you change? So you say it's not about 2 stone. What is it that they're looking for? How do you help them get clear on that big vision?
I think it's all about getting down to the granular level of what got them there in the first place. Let's say, for instance, I've got a couple of clients. I'll talk about one of them. She had a brain tumor, and she was very, very fit. She was around about 8.5 stone. She had a brain tumor, and it caused her to pile on a lot of weight because it affected part of the brain, and she couldn't walk. And she got to 14 stone, and then she could walk again in 2018. So she decided to go back to the gym, and she got called. She had her headphones on, but they weren't turned on. And she got called, "What is that moose doing over there?" Now, no matter who you are, how high your confidence levels are, that has to affect you in a certain way. Yeah. But when you have been mentally broken by a brain tumor, that sort of thing is what's going to set you a very, very low self-esteem level. And rather than her saying, "I want to go from the 13 stone I am now to 9 stone," her goal is, "I want to be confident enough to go back to the gym." And that can only come from education around food, education around exercise, changing her daily habits, and having regular catch-ups to find out where she is. And maybe, and I'm not normally a personal trainer, but she is local, and maybe just somebody like myself going with her and saying, "Look, 99% of people in the gym have a good gym culture." You will find, obviously, in life, there are some people who like to externalize their problems. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are the problem. Unfortunately, you were in a bad place emotionally, and that person made you feel worse because they were in a bad place emotionally. This is how I like to think anyway. I don't like to think that everybody's evil. There are obviously some evil people in the world, but I like to think there are root causes behind the way people act. So with her, as much as she wanted to lose 3 or 4 stone, that was kind of irrelevant in the fact that she wants to get back to a place where she's confident walking around, that if somebody did say something about her, she knows she's fit, she knows she's on the right path, she knows she's eating well, she knows she's doing the right things. It's a slow process because she's in her mid-40s, she's got a low thyroid because of something that affected her in her brain. So she knows it's a process, but the process becomes then, right, here's my start, I'm 14 stone. If I'm 9 stone and I'm still not confident enough to go to the gym, well, the transformation hasn't really worked, because I want to be confident enough in myself that I know what I'm doing, that when somebody says that about me in the gym, I say, well, I'd probably do more work than you. That is why the short-term 90-day challenges, and I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them that are run by, let's say, some of these younger coaches online, they are all around that one metric. They are all around, let's make you look sexy for a day.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the superficial ones. I think it's important, like, in, as competitors, we know that we are peaking on a specific day and we are aiming at that, whether we look sexy or not, as in the eye of the beholder, I guess. But stage photography is what it is. But I completely agree. I think, and if you are in the gym, we never know anybody else's journey, and if they're in the gym, it's the best place, like, because they're working like that. That's usually, we should always respect that, I think. Okay, yeah. So I think in that case, then, I know it sounded like we were kind of disagreed a little bit on transformation challenges, but it sounds like we're on a similar thing. Is that, for me, transformation journey, I think it's important to have an intense period. This is why I was worried. I was like, you need to have an intense period, like a 90 days or however long it is, because there's a couple of things. Number one, habit formation. Like, if you look at the idea of habit formation, I think it's like 66 days to get into a groove where something becomes habit. So whether from a fitness perspective, that's diet or routine or something along those lines, it makes it sustainable. And I think the other thing with 90 days is you can sprint for 90 days, not physically, but mentally. And I think that's something that you can do. And you get to the end of the 90 days, and yeah, you look back and you've made some sacrifices and made some challenges, and you've made some progress. That reinforces self-belief. And I think this is what the journey is about. At the beginning, you set these ambitious goals and people aren't sure if they're going to do it. Maybe they've tried in the past and it hasn't really worked. And they're like, oh, am I going to do it? I'm going to do it. And working with a coach is a really good thing to do. And you get to the end of that 90 days and you're like, look what you were able to achieve. And, it's not just the result, but it's the person you have to become to do that. It's the building the discipline. It's the overcoming the temptation. It's all of those things that we know mentally you have to overcome. We'll talk about that on another episode. That people don't understand. They think it's just about that superficial metric. No, it's not. It's the building the person that can achieve that. That, for me, is why the challenges are so important. What you do at the end of the 90-day challenge, that's up to you.
So if we go back to the 90-day challenge, I don't necessarily challenge my clients to 90 days. However, I do say to them, we sign up for a minimum of 3 months. We sign up for a minimum of 90 days. And the reason we do that is, like you said, it does take about 66 days to form a habit. In the first week of your coaching, there's going to be some give, there's going to be some take, there's going to be some changes. So if you think about 66 days to create a habit, you're going to add 7 days to that. You're then into your 70 days. So it does need 3 months of anybody's coaching for us to really grab a hold of somebody and say, look, this is what we want you to do. This is what you need to do. We meet somewhere in the middle and then we move you to this side. But like you said, it does take a long time for people to go, oh, I have to go for a walk here because I haven't been very active today. I've been quite sedentary. I'm not used to doing it. So therefore I need to force myself to do it. After a while, like you said, it becomes a habit, and then you just become a less sedentary person. We need to build those habits. Those like I said, those habits don't tend to come when you are just driving for one metric, which is just fat loss. When you are aiming at fat loss, all you think is, I have to do my steps to lose fat. I have to go to the gym to lose fat. I have to eat this food to lose fat. It's not, I have to do these things to make myself feel more effective as a person, that I give myself more self-confidence. It's, I have to do this because in 90 days, I'm not going to be able to do it anymore. And I think that's, I'm absolutely with you on a 90-day mental toughness, is that after 90 days, you should be in a place mentally where you can then go, right, okay, what can I do next? Rather than, this is where I finish.
Yeah. No, I love that. And the transformation journey, if you turn to the last page, it says, well done, what next? Like, this is part of the journey. And if you effectively, if you set that vision, right, and the vision is 3, 5, 10 years, like, who is that person? So let's come back to your client. They were 8.5 stone and they were an athlete, like, whatever level of athlete they were. Where do they want to get to realistically? And do they want to be an athlete again? And this 3 months is the first step on that journey. But it's going to that journey and it's saying, okay, well, I've made one progress. What's the next step? And maybe you take a little break, right? At the end of 3 months, you pushed it. You take a little break. Yeah, you can go on holiday. You can chill out a little bit. Maybe you don't binge, but you relax a little bit. But then okay, I'm going to get back to it. But not as a push, just as a natural way of doing things. And this is the natural flow. All right, cool. So here's, and feel free to add any to the list of this, but if you're doing a transformation challenge or anything like that, here are some of the things that you should probably watch out for. So you're talking short-term focus, something with just an end goal, done it, and then you go back to normal. Avoid that. Just be kind of wary because it's a very short-term fix. Anything where you could potentially get burned out, like you say, massive deficit for 90 days isn't going to be very good for anybody, or like overly working out. Unrealistic expectations, was it 20 kilos in 20 days or something crazy like that? Keep off the internet, people. It's dangerous. Anything that encourages yo-yo dieting or anything like that, because it's just not sustainable. Anything that you have to make some form of sacrifice, but anything that completely expects you to sacrifice or stop doing certain things, this is life, people. We only get one chance to live it. I'd say anything that is similar to that, just be aware that you're kind of probably in a short-term cycle, and you're going to be looping back around and potentially even going backwards at the end of this. So is there anything else you'd put as a warning sign on challenges? Anything people should look out for?
Yeah, I would say there is definitely the idea that people have that they can't enjoy themselves whilst doing that. So they exclude themselves from social activities.
Yeah.
So you go to your family do and you have your beige buffet there. Okay, you know how to eat that beige buffet because you've been told, or you speak to your coach and you say, Coach, I'm having a beige buffet on the weekend. Is there anything I should really avoid? And you say, well, if something's made with full fat mayonnaise, it's probably all right to have a little bit of it. But if you're going to have a whole plate of full fat mayonnaise coleslaw, which, okay, mum makes the best coleslaw, it is going to make you feel lethargic. It's going to make you feel like probably you've eaten too much. And then for the next day or the day after, this is to phrase an actual client, I'm going to eat like a crackhead because I've had 8,000 calories in one day. Oh dear, I need to eat like a crackhead for the next 4 days to change that. And the idea of education is that you can teach somebody actually the reason you fall asleep, the reason you get meat sweats, the reason that you feel terrible on that day is because your body is actually burning all of those calories. And 5% of them can probably be absorbed. So 5% of 5,000 calories, you're not eating that much. Let's be honest. You're not going to make huge damage with one meal. And that's why I think social isolation is the one thing that transformations need to address, is because if you've got a partner, if you've got a family, they want to go out for meals. They want to do things. They want to go to a country park and have an ice cream and things like that. Okay, you might not have the ice cream, but it doesn't mean that you can't go into those situations. It doesn't mean that you can't take your food with you. It doesn't mean that they can't have the things that they want. And you just say to them, today, I'm not having this because I'm focusing on myself. And so I think social isolation as a topic is something that definitely happens when people get their mindset into, I've only got 90 days to do this. Rather than I'm doing a 90-day challenge and afterwards I'm going to do another 90 days and then I'm going to do another 90 days. So if you've got just a single focus on 90 days, you will just isolate everybody from your world and go, I am here. That's all I'm doing. And that's all I want to do.
From a competition perspective, even in competition, I don't get that extreme. Like I do cut and I do sacrifice a lot of stuff, but family, we every Friday we go to the cake shop, and depending on what season I'm in determines what I'm going to be having at the cake shop. So the cake or Diet Coke. But you're right, like you got to carry on living. This is life, people. This is life. So no, I love that perspective. Is 90 days, get to where you can, and then reassess, go again. Perfect. This is awesome. All right, so we're in alignment. Transformation challenges are a good idea, but only when they're done in a sensible way. Fab.
In the correct manner by the correct coach, yes.
Exactly. All right, peeps. Thanks for listening. Pete, thanks for joining us, and see you on the next episode of Personal Transformation Podcast.
See you later.